Hi there, and welcome back to my channel for another chapter of Mischief and Masquerade. This has been such a fun story to read to you. I don't often read back through my stories once I get them published, but this has been really fun. And because I'm going to be narrating my stories, I'm going to get to be reading through them all again. And sometimes as I'm reading through them, I think, wow, did I really write that? That's pretty good. And other times I cringe and go, oh, I can't believe I wrote that. Anyway, so here we go with chapter 9. Early the next morning, Kate awoke to the rich aroma of coffee and bacon. It smelled like the expensive Jamaican brand her parents loved. Em, is that you? Who? Oliver's deep voice filled the room. Kate ducked into the bathroom. Oh, I was just talking to the mirror. Oh, heavens, she needed to be careful, even if she thought she was alone. How had he gotten into their suite anyway? Had Emily let him in? I almost don't recognize myself with that black eye. Let me see. Kate slammed the door. Oh, no, mister, not until I've at least brushed my hair. And it wouldn't hurt to see if she could cover her face with some makeup. Well, breakfast will be ready shortly. His thick English voice floated through the door and turned her insides upside down. Her eye was too swollen for makeup to do any good, but without concealer, it looked hideous. Kate supposed it didn't matter since he'd already seen her looking like this last night. Give me a moment. She dabbed a bit of her cover stick over the reddish-black bruise, pulled the elastic from her hair, and gave it a quick brush. No sense in greeting him with morning breath, so she scrubbed her teeth as well. Do I have time to change my clothes? Make it quick. She rushed across the hall, hoping he wasn't looking at her dressed in a skimpy nightie with its low-cut neckline. If she'd known he was there, Katie would have put on a matching robe to cover her seductive nightgown. The pair of jeans she'd worn last night lay across the foot of the bed, and she slipped into them. Decorum suggested she shouldn't wear the same t-shirt, even if she'd only worn it for an hour. A white and peach polka dot blouse with ruffles at the neckline paired nicely with her jeans. Barefoot, she padded into the kitchen. Along with a plate of bacon, pancakes and maple syrup sat on the table. The place settings were paper and plastic. Smells heavenly. Kate took in a deep sniff as she leaned over the food. Like he'd done the night before, he pulled out her chair. I hope you don't mind, but Kate let me in. Where is she? Oh, she and Rick went to the lake to go fishing. Without her? Emily knew how much she loved time on the water. Oliver must have seen the disappointed look on her face. Do you want to go later? Maybe we could catch up with them. That would be wonderful. It would also give her some time to observe Rick to see if he was husband material. Although, judging by what she saw from the window last night, her best friend was stealing the man she was supposed to marry. Would it be so terrible for Emily to find true love? She took a quick glance at Oliver before clasping her hands in front of her. She didn't get a chance to ask a blessing on the food, which she was pretty sure didn't need it with how wonderful everything looked, as Oliver offered a brief prayer of thanks. Did Rick pray? That would be something to observe. We should pick up a lunch from the cafe to take with us. She hoped there weren't any people around to witness her black eye. He poured her a cup of coffee. I already ordered a to-go box for us. Wonderful. Picnics. That was another thing she loved. We'll have to take your rental car, if that's all right with you. Not a problem, unless you don't like women drivers. Fortunately, breakfast went off with no mishaps. After they finished cleaning up the dishes, she changed into a swimsuit and pulled a pair of shorts over it, while Oliver left to change his clothes. The drive to Miracle Lake didn't take long. On a hot summer day like today, Kate thought for sure there would be more people enjoying the water. On the far bank, a lone fisherman cast his line into the ripples. A boat trolled through the water with a young couple sitting across from each other. It was too far away to make out their features, but the hair coloring on the two didn't match Emily's or the Earl's. "Do you think they rented a boat?" Oliver held the cardboard box containing their lunch under his arm. "Maybe, but do you still want to find them, or shall we just venture out on our own?" With the boat launch close by, Kate suggested, "Let's rent one, and maybe as we paddle around, we'll spot them." The guy at the boathouse set the rowboat in the water and held out life preservers for each of them. Kate took hers from the man, grateful for it. Even though Kate loved the water, she wasn't a good swimmer. Oliver handed her their lunch and a small quilt he must have grabbed from his room and climbed into the boat, donning his life jacket. "I almost drowned as a kid." She placed the box and blanket on the bottom of the boat. "Then we have a lot in common. Not that I almost drowned, but I've always had a fear of the deep. It scares me when I can't see what's below." He picked up the oars and pushed away from the dock. "Hopefully we won't need them. The water seems pretty placid today." They set out across the lake. The way his muscles strained against his shirt sent Kate's heart pittering. She'd ridden across the top of one of his shoulders and hadn't fully appreciated his form as he jostled her across the street. A bit of her wanted to touch his brawny arms. His easy stroke propelled their small craft forward. The sun beat down on them, but a light breeze made for a beautiful late morning. She kept her gaze flitting around the lake, hoping to catch sight of Emily and Rick. A brood of ducklings followed their mama alongside the boat. "You think they're hoping for crumbs?" Kate let her hand trail across the top of the water. The mama duck nipped at her fingers and she yanked her hand back. "Be careful, they have a nasty bite." The mother duck swam away and all but one of her ducklings followed her around a log. The littlest one couldn't seem to figure out how to maneuver its way around it. "Hey, Mama!" Kate called after her. "You're missing one!" Oliver lifted his oar, turning the boat so she could get a better view of the ducks. "We have ducks and geese on our pond back home. Watch what she'll do." The mama duck glided around the log and swam circles around the duckling, quacking at the little guy until he followed her and joined his siblings. Her heart melted at how attentive the mama was. "Aw, that is so precious." They have this amazing instinct to care for their young. He turned the boat around and nodded to a distant green island with tall oaks and shrubs. "Shall we picnic there?" "I'd like that. It looks nice and secluded." Kate hoped they'd have it all to themselves. Once the boat reached the rocks on the shore, he jumped out and held out his hand. She handed him their lunch and the blanket before she took his hand as he helped her step onto the rocks. Her sandals slipped and Oliver dropped the box, grabbed her around the waist and kept her from falling back into the water. "Careful there." He led her to a flat boulder hidden by some dense bushes. "Will this work?" Kate spread out the blanket on top and situated herself. Luckily, it was located under the shade of an overhanging oak tree. Oliver sat beside her and handed her the lunch box he'd retrieved from the boat. "What did you order?" Kate took it from him and peeled back the lid. An ice pack covered the contents, which, thanks to being carefully packed, suffered no damage from being dropped when he caught her earlier. "Chicken salad on croissants, chips, and Black Forest cake." Kate closed the lid. "I'm still full from breakfast." She set the box against the trunk of the oak tree to keep it cool. They spent the next hour exploring the island, weaving in and out of the trees. The peace and serenity of the secluded spot left her wishing the day would never end. They sat on the opposite end of the island and watched as dark clouds gathered in the distance. "You think it will catch up to us?" Oliver asked. Kate put her finger in her mouth and held it up to test the direction of the wind. "Probably not." Still, it looked like a rather formidable storm was blowing in off the ocean. "Let's hope it moves on from east from here." Oliver eased down into the tall grass and held out his hand for Kate to join him. A rainbow started in the east and arched its way over the lake to the west. Kate sighed and leaned back against him. Oliver wrapped his arm around her shoulder. Camp chairs would have been nice to bring. Kate didn't think so. She rather liked being against his firm chest. They watched until the rainbow disappeared and the wind picked up, whipping Kate's ponytail into her face. So much for that storm heading east. She jumped to her feet and Oliver raced ahead of her. We need to get back across the lake before the storm hits. When they reached the opposite side of the island where they'd left the rowboat, it was nowhere in sight. Oh no, I should have tied it up. Oliver stood on the bank with his hand over his eyes, scanning the distance, while Kate took her phone from her back pocket. They were in a dead zone and wouldn't be able to call for help. With the life jackets in the boat and neither of them competent swimmers, they'd have to stick it out until the storm passed. Maybe before then another boat would pass by and rescue them, or at least help. Luckily, they still had their blanket and their food. Oliver shook out the quilt and beckoned for her to come sit under the tree. The wind continued to whip across the island. He lifted the edge of the quilt and draped it over their shoulders, snuggling close to her. Not quite the way I expected to spend the afternoon to play out. Kate couldn't help the chuckle raising in her chest. We seem to be quite a disaster together. Indeed, but I hardly think this was of our making. He held his arm around Kate, keeping the blanket from sliding off of her. She could get used to having someone protect her like this. Her father had often told her he admired her for the strong, independent woman she was becoming. But sometimes it was just nice to have someone else watch over her. They ate their lunch, drank their sodas, and settled against the tree. An hour later, the storm clouds burst. Oliver draped the blanket over the top of them, but it did little good as it soon became soaked. Kate shivered in the evening chill. Cold? Oliver asked. She nodded, her teeth chattering. Texas wasn't supposed to be chilly this time of year. Perhaps the storm from the Gulf brought cooler temperatures. A jacket would have been nice, but who knew the evening would turn so cold or they would be out so late? Kate reveled in Oliver's body heat, and she snuggled closer to take in as much of it as she could. Oliver rested his chin on top of her head. I should have checked the weather before we left. While the wet and cold was miserable, being wrapped in his arms made up for it. Kate could stay like this forever. So that was chapter 9. Next week, we will work on chapter 10. Would you please hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and give me a thumbs up. That would really just make my day. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that notification bell and you'll get alerts when I post another chapter. So until next week, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye now.